Hello and welcome everybody to another session of Three Things Thursday. And I'm sorry I was having some technical glitches, so I'm coming on a little late today. But today we're going to talk, my name is Tara Nayak and I work at Parent to Parent of Georgia. So thank you all for joining us. Today we're going to talk about different types of Medicaid programs. So let me share my screen so we can talk about that. So as I said, we're going to talk about all the different types of Medicaid programs that are currently available in Georgia. This whole month, we're talking about Medicaid. And so as part of that particular theme, today we're doing types of programs. So we're going to talk about not everything because there are lots of programs. We're going to talk about Medicaid programs for children and Medicaid programs for individuals with disabilities, which is both children and adults. So here are three of the Medicaid programs. One is Georgia Families, other is Georgia Families 360, and Right from the Start Medical Assistance. So for under Georgia Families, so when you apply for Medicaid, if it's based on your income, if you're eligible and you meet the criteria, then when you apply through Georgia Families, they will ask you to choose one of these care management organizations. Basically, these are independent insurance companies that Georgia has contracted with to administer their Medicaid program. So you could choose either AmeriGroup, CareSource, or Pete State Health Plan. And all of these have to have essentially the same types of services. Some of them might offer some additional services outside of Medicaid, but basically they have to provide the same services that Medicaid provides. Or you could also, if your child is, if you're for children who are in foster care or young adults, there's Georgia Families 360. That's a Medicaid program for that. And AmeriGroup is the one that administers that Medicaid program. You could also, what they call straight Medicaid, which is if you apply for Medicaid and you decide that you do not want to go through any of those care management organizations, but you want to go through Right from the Start Medicaid assistance. So that's one way also that you can get Medicaid is the Right from the Start. So it's usually for children under the age of 19, and sometimes parents and caretakers in some instances also might be eligible for coverage. And then you have what you call the SSI Medicaid. SSI is Supplemental Security Income. It is administered by the Social Security Administration. So you could apply for SSI and they will, if your child is under the age of 18, then they look at your family income in order to gauge SSI. And usually with SSI, you will get a check from the government for room and board and covering basic needs. And in Georgia, if you have SSI, you then automatically qualify for Medicaid. So if your child is over the age of 18, then the Social Security Administration only looks at your child's income and of course your child's disability in order to consider eligibility requirements. So if prior to, because of your family income, you do not qualify for SSI, then once your child turns 18, you might want to consider applying for SSI because your child might qualify for SSI because it's based on their income and their disability. And then we have the TEFRA, or what we commonly call as the Katie Beckett deeming waiver. This is also Medicaid. You get the same services as the RSM Medicaid or AmeriGroup Medicaid. It's the same types of services, but the way to access it would be different. The eligibility requirements are different. The eligibility here is based on level of care. It's not based on family income, but it's based on child's income and it's based on level of care. When they say level of care, they're looking at, does your child require nursing services? Does your child require 5 therapies a week? Does your child have an intellectual disability with a score of 70 or below? So they're looking at the intensity of the disability, and then they're looking at the child's income to make a determination whether you would qualify for Medicaid. So Katie Beckett, this is also just another type of Medicaid program. And then once you have Medicaid, whatever type of Medicaid you have, you could be eligible, your child could be eligible to receive GAP or Georgia Pediatric Program. They provide skilled nursing services. So if your child requires a registered nurse or requires a licensed practitioner nurse, LPN or an RN, then you could apply for this. Or if your child requires help with daily living needs, like they need help with showering, they need help with feeding, they need help with meal prep, dressing, they need help with any of those things, then it also provides personal care supports through CNAs, which is certified nurse assistants. So in order to receive GAP services, you would have to go through a nursing agency to apply. The other program that is administered by Medicaid is the Premium Assistance Program. So if you have private insurance and you have Medicaid, then Medicaid will pay a portion or the entire private insurance premium that you are incurring. And this is to encourage more individuals to have private insurance. So you have to have both private insurance and Medicaid, and the state will reimburse you the premium that you're paying on your private insurance. And those are the two programs under there. And then you have non-emergency Medicaid medical transportation. So if you have medical appointments like doctor's appointments or therapy services, you can contact this transportation division and schedule transport to and from your doctor's appointments. And then the last big category are the several waiver programs that Georgia has under Medicaid. The Now and Comp waiver is kind of one of the largest waivers. And it's essentially, it's for individuals who have intellectual disability, and anybody above the age of 3 can apply for it. And there is a wait list for all for the Now and Comp and the ICWP and the CCSP. There are wait lists for all that, but you can apply for that and be on their wait list. Then there's ICWP, the Independent Care Waiver. That is for individuals 21 to 64 who have physical disabilities or have traumatic brain injury. And then you have CCSP and SOARS. They're primarily more geared for the elderly than for our children, but it's also that also has a category of serving individuals with disabilities. So some young adults with disabilities also have CCSP and SOARS. So that is kind of like the gamut of our medical program, of Medicaid programs in Georgia. And coming up next week, we'll talk about eligibility requirements and how to qualify for some of these Medicaid programs. I know that was a lot of information, but we have a link. I've posted a link that has a list of all these programs that I talked about and the numbers where you can contact to apply for them, and also some basic information as to what each of these programs are. So it's just a 2-pager with the list of everything that I talked about today. So if you can click on that, you'll get that information right at your fingertips. And as always, Medicaid is complicated, and so it's really hard to do it in 15 minutes. So please call us at the 800 number, or you can log on to our website and reach us that way too. Thank you all once again for joining us for another session of 3 Things Thursday. And we'll see you next week.